Constitution. It is their authority, not the states, to decide immigration laws given to them by the power of the Constitution. The states cannot override that. If they do, they are breaking federal law. The governor, the mayors, the police chief, anyone doing that is breaking federal law. To resist ICE and not help them, that is breaking federal law. That's why Trump is doing it, I think.
I need to go look that up to confirm that, but let's just say that you are right without looking that up. This still makes sense because they think that a lot of the things that Trump is doing, like how he enacted tariffs, how we're at war with Venezuela, and many other actions like bombing Iran, he's doing things that are illegal. He's starting wars. He's doing acts of war without Congress's approval, that he's doing things that are illegal, so they do them too. They're justified in their bad behavior because
unjustified response, though, because that same exact kind of thing has happened with Democrat presidents, and yet the Republicans didn't respond.
No, hold on. You're doing the whataboutism, and I agree with you. We want to go back and see that. I just need you to see that they, even if they're wrong, and I don't think that they are, Trump is doing things that they see as illegal, that are unconstitutional, so they feel justified in breaking their rules, even if it's unjustifiable, if it's illegal. Do you see that?
I mean, I guess whatever their justification for doing it is, though, it's not actually justified. And it creates more problems.
Why not? So Trump isn't doing anything illegal. Like how he enacted tariffs, that isn't illegal. How he kidnapped the leader of Venezuela, that isn't illegal. That's not starting a war. If China kidnapped Trump, is that starting a war? Yeah, go ahead.
Did you hear my argument? Because I didn't say anything about him doing things illegal or illegal. I didn't say anything about.
But that's how are you removing that from the equation for the justification that they see him doing things that are illegal, that are causing harm, specifically on tariffs, that is causing financial harm to the average American on what they literally are going to be able to buy every day, and he's doing that via non-constitutional means, so they see him doing illegal things, and this is just one instance, there's multiples of them, so then when they feel that they're going on whatever it is that they're trying to do conflict off, they feel they are justified in breaking any illegal things because the other side is playing dirty too.
Okay, so you did something bad, so I'm going to do something bad?
Yes, eye for an eye. You're playing dirty, I'm going to play dirty. You mock me, I'll mock you. You ridicule me, I ridicule you. You gerrymander, I'll gerrymander. You filibuster, I'll filibuster. Both sides are justifying their bad actions because the other side is doing it. And I agree with you. Every time you want to go back to previous ones, I absolutely do. I want to do that. I want to go, no, none of that doesn't matter. Are we only looking at Trump? Not at all. I want to go back multiple decades. I'm never trying to downplay your argument of like, well, what about all these Democratic politicians? But again, we have to see the uniparty and them controlling the mainstream media of what the average person is seeing on Fox News,
the argument I was making has nothing to do with. The argument I was making has very little to do with the justification behind why there's resistance.
I understand because they're doing things, so he's escalating, and that's the thing I'm talking about. There's many different things that are warfare escalation principles. That because the other side is doing certain things that are working, and this is the whole thing of this the defect, the game theory thing, the action of defect versus cooperate. Defect is specifically any action. It could be small to really big in any different ways that we interact with each other in any of these different places of specifically working against the other side. Yeah. I am doing things you don't want me to do because you're not doing things I want. And that is just as constant, even if people are not conscious of it. In fact, most of the time, I think they're not. That's what's happening. And this is why I'm saying we could bring this to a husband and wife. The same thing is happening because the husband is admitting his bad behavior. The wife feels justified in not admitting hers. And then we're trying to ever shine a light and go, oh, look at how rational she is. She won't even admit her bad behavior. No, they're caught in this metaphorical Mexican standoff where they're both doing high levels of acts of defection to not give the other side what they want.
Yeah.
We're at
All
this
I'm
high
saying
level
is that
place in America.
I don't actually believe that it's justified, because I mean, if it's justified, then we end up in a flat out civil war, states against federal
No, no, no,
governments,
no,
or
no,
certain
no, no,
states
no, no.
against the federal
It's
government.
it's justified, and we can understand how we got here, understanding these really dark seated things in human nature and human nurture that humanity hasn't figured out yet. Finding out and seeing that it is justified helps us break this cycle, because you're able to validate, oh, I can see why you did this. Because you thought, for instance, Antifa, that was dressed in black bloc, attacking Andy Ngo and all the other different things that they did, from their mainstream media source, they were constantly being told Trump is an illegal president because he was in cahoots with Russia. That
Which wasn't true.
no, right, but no, but hold on. You need to be able to stand in their shoes. So you don't think that. You need to put yourself in the mindset that they are in. Completely. Remove your judgment from it completely. Wipe a slate clean. And now you have been consuming CNN, MSNBC for the last 2 years. You're hearing all this Russia hoax stuff, that he's in bed with the Russians, that's how he got elected. That's how you thought Hillary Clinton should have won. And then you're thinking that he's fascist, that he's a Nazi, because that's how the mainstream media is constantly painting him as, like the whole Charlottesville thing, where he denounced white supremacy 2 times and then said there are very fine people on both sides. CNN clipped it to where it's only very fine people on both sides. So
Yeah.
these people that are watching this are getting a much more skewed, unrighteous judgment view of who Donald Trump is, to make him seem way more racist, way more fascist. And I'm not saying because I think he has some of these things, maybe, but probably not. But they're so in their view, when they are so the thought experiment to shift to is, how many times have we all watched like World War II movies and thought, oh, if I was there, I would fight the good fight against the Nazis. I would do X, Y, and Z things to save Jewish people. I would kill Nazis. I would lie. I would cheat. I would steal. I would do all of the bad behaviors I wouldn't do in the society that I'm currently in. All of these things are principles that I do that I think are really bad and important, and people should be doing them. But in that environment, I would do all of those things to save Jewish people. I think Antifa, when they're dressed in black bloc and they're doing all these different things, they're thinking their actions are justified because of their worldview of Trump was an illegal president that is a fascist racist.
Yeah.
So controlling what the mainstream media is saying is extremely significant. Understanding the FCC Fetish Doctrine was removed in 1987, and instead of getting improved and we getting better at it, it was removed. And then the data shows that 3 main demographics, our Congress, average Republican Democrat, and politically engaged, all lost the ability to agree. The polarization started there. Because then
remember to put my food that was in the freezer. I put all my food in the freezer that was going to spoil, and I have a fridge in the freezer so that it wouldn't spoil, like cheese and bread and even my yogurt.
Yeah.
So I forgot, I didn't take it out last night because I got home and I cleaned a few things that I had with me, and then I went to sleep, and I have to reverse all that. I mean, I was going to be gone if that all worked out until almost mid-March, so I definitely need a freezer, else I would have lost it. I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna eat now because of that, because I don't have many options that aren't frozen. Uh, um, yeah, and I mean, I did try to hear what they thought, and I mean, I was very much aware of what the liberal media was saying at that time, especially like during Charlottesville, and when Antifa attacked the Nazis, the neo-Nazi fascist, well, not fascist, white supremacist groups. And then I looked at what the fuck were they even there for? Why was the white supremacist groups there? And it was because they were protesting the Confederate statue being removed from the Capitol building.
And there was three of them, and three groups, and they had filed the paperwork to be there that day to protest it. And then the media made it look like, and I was watching this on not CNN, I can't remember what stations, but the liberal media stations, and they were covering it, making it look like the neo-Nazi groups were the violent agitators, and that their ideologies don't belong in our country, and that the Antifa group was justified in attacking them. And look at this car that just ran into the neo-Nazi or the Antifa group. The neo-Nazis just attacked the Antifa group. But then people who were reporters and bystanders who were fleeing the violence, run into stores and stuff to get away from it, were filming it and reporting on what they saw. And they saw that, well, the white supremacist groups were attacked by a group 7 times their size at least 9 different occasions before there was ever a car driven into the Antifa group. And they were legally allowed to be there to protest, whether you agree with their position or not. We have the right to speech against the government doing something. That's where free speech comes in. Doesn't matter whether your ideals aren't supported by 99% of the country, you still have that right to do that. So them being attacked is not justified, but the ABC, NBC, all of them covered it to make it look like it was completely justified and that they were in the wrong. Just for existing, just for having their ideas that are so contrary to our nation's values, they're in the wrong and it's justified to attack them. And that really, I mean, that woke me up to the problems with the left and the media, making it, supporting that it's okay in certain situations to completely ignore constitutional freedoms.
Which constitutional freedoms are you referring to?
Well,
the freedom
this was
of
free
expression?
speech. Free speech. I mean, they weren't doing it in a public or private situation like social media. They were doing it where it belongs, the one place that the constitutional amendment gives us that freedom, which is against the government, to speak out against the government, not against our fellow man, not against private industry, against the government. They were speaking out legally against the government, removal of the Confederate statue. They had every right to do that. Didn't matter if you viewed them as racist, didn't matter if you thought of them as Nazis, which, I mean, I guess they kind of are since they're white supremacists. That doesn't matter. What matters is they were exercising that right that exists for that purpose. So they were in the right to be there. And they should have been allowed to protest it. And sure, a counter-protest group could have showed up and said, no, you're wrong. This should not be here because it depicts this racist part of our past and slavery. We shouldn't have it here at the Capitol building. It shows the dark side of our nation and this state. But that could have been done peacefully. And as soon as they attacked the white supremacist group for any reason other than white supremacist group attacking them first, the media should have covered it and said, look what Antifa just did. This is terrible. But they didn't do it that way.
In order for it to be peacefully, they actually would know how to argue really well, how to use the words really well to be able to steelman each other and have that conversation. But they're not going to do that. Both sides are really bad at it.
Okay,
but I think
that doesn't justify it. What I'm saying is it does not ever justify it. As soon as it turns to violence, that public display of disagreement becomes illegal.
It does. It becomes illegal. But to say that it's not completely justified, you even showed a justification for the violence of the white supremacists using the car to run over a person because of the violence the left was doing to them. So you at least saw a justification there.
No, I did not see that justification. I didn't say it was justified. I don't think that
Okay.
retaliation is justified.
Okay.
It just escalates things. All I was saying is that the media was portraying it
It does
in an
escalate things. I
inaccurate
agree with
light,
you.
and they were showing it as, this side is the run and the wrong, and people still to this day think of it the wrong way. They remember the facts the wrong way because the overwhelming, and this is the Orwellian side of controlling of information. And it is a clear example of it happening in real time in the society today, that people believe what they were overwhelmingly told, to the extent that even people on the right to this day see the facts of the situation completely wrong, and they still think that what happened at that day was that the Nazis were the agitators that shouldn't have been there, and the Antifa group was in the right for what they did. They rewrote fucking history. They did what the communist regime did when they went into power with Mao. They changed the narrative, they controlled what people heard and read, and then they changed history to fit what they wanted them to believe.
Yes.
Now, if people can't see that happened and that it's still happening today, then they need to wake up, or they're going to get what they don't want. They're going to get this very controlling regime that is just like that 1984 movie, only in modern day with today's technology. The way it's controlling this information is the problem. And I mean, yes, there could be entities behind the scenes that are controlling it. They depicted that in Anchorman 2, how the companies that bought up these networks had special interests because of investments or subsidiaries, and they would not allow reporting that would reflect negatively on those investments. So it was no longer about accurate reporting and the truth. It was about protecting their interests and ratings. And that didn't change, it escalated. It became the norm. It became the prevalent dichotomy of news. So news was no longer about reporting information and facts. It was about ratings and controlling information that would negatively impact their interests or positively impact their interests.
Yes. That's why the FCC Fairness Doctrine is so critical, because it's supposed to help represent whatever any issue is as best as possible for whatever that side is saying.
Well, we need that again. We need something that, prevents the news from being controlled by people with money, and the information that people see from being what they want them to see instead of the truth. Because then we end up in this where we're at, where people don't know the truth and what they believe is false, and it causes them to act in ways that they wouldn't if they knew the truth. It's very, very dangerous. And I mean, the 1984 and Anchorman 2 and other media like that is warning people of what can happen if we allow it to happen, because we're not aware that it's going on and we don't put a stop to it. People need to take the cover off of their eyes and wake up and do something about it, instead of just continuing to be blinded by their ignorance.
Yeah, but you're putting too much on the average person. I think you're putting way too much blame on these people that you're saying that they are remembering things wrong, but the mainstream media is telling them the wrong things.
Okay.
The
So
vast
whose
majority of people,
responsibility is it?
the vast majority of people on both sides were not at Charlottesville.
Sure.
They're
Whose
hearing
responsibility is it to
reporting.
discern the truth? Is it some outside person's, third party's person's responsibility to
I thought in
make
the
sure
past,
everyone knows the truth?
we've established that the average person is not thinking for themselves because of tribalistic wrong think pressures, that as soon as you cross the line and you start to give dissent and criticism to your own party, your own group, you threaten your group survival. You most likely would be ostracized because you're giving dissent and criticism for whatever the narrative is.
Okay. So should people be operating out of fear of upsetting the people on their side and their group, so that they should
should be.
continue to conform
they
to what their group wants?
Yes, they should be.
Why?
Because they threaten because it threatens their emotional, financial, and physical survival, their welfare, their well-being. If they
It
get
does
kicked out of their
anyway.
group, it great. Oh my God.
No, I'm not arguing against you. I'm saying that it does anyway, because if they continue to do that,
I
then
know,
they're not aware
but
that the destruction that they're
yeah,
causing, the harm they're causing
yes,
themselves by doing that.
yes, but we still first have to understand how this beast, the contempt and the tribalism works, to understand why they have to do what they are doing. They're doing what they can just to survive, in order to keep whatever financial, physical, and emotional well-being they currently have, even though it's probably still really bad. I mean, we're at
Right.
60% chronic disease rates. We're at the emotional state, depression and loneliness
Right.
crisis and suicide rates. It's extremely bad. Like, we're at a
That's why
very
people
significant time in
resist
history.
change, even if they have been thinking about for years or even decades making a move, making a change, because they're not completely satisfied with their life. They're afraid of making that change because of losing what they have, even though they don't like what they have. Because there's some aspects of what they have that they don't want to lose. So giving up who they are and what they have for this potential future that could be much better, but could also lead to them losing some of these things they still want, makes them afraid to make that change.
Yes. And we need
And
to
when it
understand
comes
these
to
things.
when it comes to politicians, it's all about the next term. They are all about, how can I get elected again? So they won't do things that will like kick the bucket down the road a decade or however long, so that it's not a problem for them in the next election. And they'll make, they'll pass bills and they'll make concessions and they'll say things that will, make it more likely they'll get elected. And they just say, okay, well, we need to deal with this stuff, but not now, because if we deal with it now, I'm not going to get reelected. And people are the same way. I mean, we're not just learning from the politicians, we learn from our own experiences in life, that if we don't take care of what we have right now, then we may lose it, but we're not worried about the future and losing it anyway. It's just like, okay, those people who in that doomsday scenario of the apocalypse, they think, oh, well, I care about my immediate needs and my family, so I'm going to protect those things. But they don't think about, okay, well, if they're only thinking about that, they're going to lose it, because by making that decision, instead of the decision that could save humanity, they end up losing it anyway, just a little bit later. So that's the same thing with like social programs. People are worried about losing what they have, but they aren't concerned about the future enough. So they don't look into the future to see that if they continue to support programs that are unsustainable, they're going to lose them. So something needs to be done so that they can be extended, but in a lesser degree, or changed in some way so that they can be maintained, but not in the same form. Because if everything stays the same way, then they're going to go away and they won't be prepared for it, because they're only worried about the now, not the future.
So how much blame is on the average person? So the average Democrat, the average Republican, how much blame do you put on them as an individual for their faulty understandings of whatever event? For any time, like Charlottesville, for example, how much blame do you put on the people on the left for their misunderstandings of where they're wrong on Charlottesville? How much blame is on the individual average person? Like, if they're in front of you, you would tell them you have this much blame on your shoulders.
I don't like to put percentages to it. Do I think that they're somewhat to blame? Yes.
Hey,
Do I think that they're fully to blame?
I have to
No.
I have to run to the store real quick. Jody's going to give me a ride to get water real quick. I'll be back in about 10 minutes or so.
Okay.